everybody. I'm Shatay.
I'm Scott, and we're the Hazes.
Welcome back to season 2 of the Love Haze, where in the first season we talked a lot about healing and wholeness, and that is always going to be important to us, talking about how to rethink the way that you love your life. But this season, we have shifted, and now we're talking about purpose work in the community, right? I think there will always be a process of healing and getting to the highest versions of ourselves. But in the meantime, in between time, there is a lot of work that we could all be doing and that folks are already actively doing to empower and impact their communities. So we're having some really insightful, inspiring, incredible conversations with some of those folks this season on Love It.
Yeah. And so we understand that there will always be a haze, but we can make a choice to show up whole and healed and ready to do our purpose work to make our communities and our personal spaces better. And we can always show up ready to do our purpose work.
Here. And so today we have my line sister, Dr. Jihan, who is a board certified pediatrician and owner of Peace of Mind Pediatrics in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. She is the director of the Clara Community Health Center, which is a free clinic for the uninsured, which I think is incredible. She also has a great Facebook page, which is at Dr. Jihan, where she hosts a series of live streams with different folks in the community as well, with a focus specifically on topics impacting minority communities. We are so excited to have you, sis. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dr. Jihan.
Thank you.
So we're just gonna jump right into it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and how you got started.
Yeah.
So as she mentioned, I am a board certified pediatrician. So I care for children from birth to I have a few 20-year-olds as well. Just can't quite leave the practice. But I handle pretty much anything in terms of health in that realm. I have a special interest in topics of breastfeeding, but also a lot of information and dialogue in psychiatric illnesses as well. I've actually done like an extra year training in psychiatric illnesses. So I do a lot of work with that. Also obesity and nutrition, those are to my heart as well. And so what got me to this position? When I was in high school, I actually recently found a box that I had written a brochure when I was in high school telling people my future career. It's very interesting because I think it was 1996 or something like that. But anyhow, in it, I tell people I'm going to be a corporate lawyer and I'm going to live in Atlanta.
Wow.
In 10 years. Now, granted, 10 years from that date, I was in Atlanta, but I was a doctor. So I had to sit back and say, what made me switch to medicine? And I think early on, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because we had no lawyer. My uncle was a lawyer, but there's no other lawyers in my family. My father's a physician. His brother's a physician. Both of my mom's siblings are physicians.
Wow.
So I thought I was like, well, I'm going to break out of this mold and do something different. Well, lo and behold, around the age of 14 or 15, my close friend's best friend passed away on the basketball court. He was a star athlete, varsity as a freshman, like he was a beast. And he died at lunch. He collapsed at lunch while, just playing 21. And it really prompted me to wonder, like, what happened to him and how to prevent this from happening to anyone else. And so at that point, I really was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And I'm interested in sports medicine. So they introduced me to like casting and, the ortho aspect. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do pediatric sports medicine all the way. I ended up going to a high school of math and science so that I could make sure that I was, top-notch science student, which helped me get a full scholarship to Spelman. They only gave 5 and my sister was already there. So they were like, you have to have a full scholarship. And so I worked that. I was so grateful and blessed to be able to do that. And then when I was there, I majored in biochemistry. I love chemistry, so I chose something that I did enjoy. And it was a struggle, but I made it through and graduated actually magna cum laude. And with that degree, which is what I really, really wanted. And then applied immediately to medical school and got into a few. And I just really wanted to stay in the Atlanta area. And I liked Morehouse School of Medicine. So I just walked across the street
Nice.
And went to medical school. And then when it came time for, in medical school, the ortho people came in, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be one of you guys. They brought out the Black & Decker. And I'm like, what is this for? They're like, to saw through bone. And I'm like, oh, is this what sports medicine is? And they're like, I mean, yes. I mean, that's an aspect if you want to do orthopedics. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm not going to do ortho. I'll just do sports medicine through pediatrics. Then I found out there's only like 3 of those positions, like residency positions. Like, it just doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so I should just become a general pediatrician and do a little bit of extra work in sports medicine. So that's kind of where it landed me. But then it's funny because as I actually got into residency, and I ended up staying at Morehouse because I decided I didn't want to go anywhere else. It was funny. I really love the family at Morehouse School of Medicine. It's a small environment, and I really loved the faculty. And so I changed my match list at the last minute. I was like, Charlotte was number 1. I was like, I'm going to Charlotte. And then the last minute, I was like, I want to stay in Atlanta. And I ended up matching because I don't know if you guys know, but when we apply for residency, we don't really just get to pick where we want to go. It's a commitment. So I switched that, and so I wanted to be able to stay. So it was really cool. But as I went through Morehouse and started to realize that sports medicine wasn't what I thought it was anymore either. It was a lot of allowing people to play and return to play when I felt that they shouldn't actually. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I don't want to become that specialist and have parents screaming at me and yelling at me because I pull your kid, because that's the healthiest thing for them. So I feel like general peds is best for me. And when I have those athletes that I am worried about, I do send them to the specialists. I don't always agree with their return to play, but at least it's not on me anymore. And I can, feel like of course I want to share with parents my thoughts, but a lot of, youth, and they just see that as the only way out. And so if you say, I need you to halt a season, then they're not going to. But I'll be honest with you, almost every child that I said, I feel like you should halt, they ended up with a worse injury, which several of them have prevented them from actually going to college. So sometimes it makes me really sad that they don't want to listen, but it's the nature of our society now in sports.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting story that you have. And oftentimes these days, especially, you don't always hear of people who, choose their major, really know what they want to do, stick with it, go on to actually work and practice in the field that they had their major in. I am definitely one of those people who I think I want to do this. But really all I ever really wanted to do was perform, and just didn't really know how to articulate that or know what it looked like, as a college student. So you stuck with it. Were there impulses along the way that, were you still really passionate about the work as you were going through, school and residencies? Like, were you still always really committed, or did that ever falter? And then I'd also love to know, at what point did your focus start to shift from, you said it a little bit, and when you just shared, from sports medicine to being more community minded? We see you, on the board of a community health center, and then you have live streams that are focused on minority communities. When did that focus start to shift for you?
So I will say, first part of your question, I didn't really waver, which is rare. And I understand that I'm rare. Most people go on to do other things, but I was very fortunate in that while I was at Spelman, there was a gentleman, and I always give him credit. There was a gentleman who did a domestic exchange from Stanford. Mm-hmm. And I had met him the summer before at a minority pre-med program. And so then he did domestic exchange. Well, when he was a year ahead of me. So when he came, he started telling me about all these opportunities abroad that he was doing. And I was like, how do you know about this stuff? And he was like, well, he was from Stanford. And let's be honest, a lot of opportunities come to those types of schools. So he had me apply to this program in Barbados. So it was after my sophomore year. Mm-hmm. No, yes, it was after my sophomore year. It was after sophomore year. And so I applied to that program, and I spent 2 months living in Barbados, updating their type 1 diabetes registry. It's a very small island, so it sounds like a really big task, but it was probably like 150 people. But trying to find those people, identifying and studying them, and then we were comparing them and their diets to people in Pennsylvania. So it was through the University of Pittsburgh. And it really just changed my whole perspective of like healthcare, to being able to be in a country and see how different it was. So it was a great opportunity. And what's interesting is that gentleman, he's an ER physician, and he actually was in Botswana. And now I think he moved to South Africa.
Wow.
He helped start clinics and educate people there. It's pretty, he just got married too. He's just a great person, and really helped kind of change my view on things. So when I graduated from Spelman, I backpacked through Thailand, which was cool. And I got sick while I was there. So I actually kind of experienced their, healthcare system a little bit, which pushed me. But then while in medical school, I was able to go to the Dominican Republic, and I stayed for 2 months and worked with patients with HIV and AIDS. And I actually had to be the nurse, the doctor, the housekeeping. I stayed the night literally with our little babies, and it was a mess. We had no nurses. Like, I was literally in a hospital that wasn't completely finished being built because the regular hospitals wouldn't admit people with AIDS.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like, they were like, you don't learn today. And the next morning, I'm like, he's alive. Can you just bring him to the house? So I ended up bringing the babies, and they slept in laundry baskets in our room.
Wow.
I was like, I'm not sleeping at this abandoned hospital no more. It's not abandoned, but it just wasn't finished. And so that just changed my whole perspective of community work and the need. And I'm like, we're so, like, in America, we take for granted. Every place I've been has had universal health care. So I've seen what it's like when you're able to get free health care, but you still can't get all the full health care, right? So like in Dominican Republic, you can't go here because you got AIDS. Like, so I can't find you a hospital bed. So we literally paid for a man's hotel room and would bring him food and care for him because they wouldn't admit him.
Wow.
Now, I'm sure those things have changed. I mean, that was 2007, 2006. So I'm sure those things have hopefully improved, but it just shows you how, not universal healthcare isn't necessarily always the answer if we're going to restrict access based on certain things. Or, like, for instance, you could have a hospital bed, but you had to buy your own IV solution.
Wow.
And some of the physicians that were in the program I was in, and this program was through Columbia Medical School, they actually donated blood to be given to our patients.
Wow.
Because the blood supply was giving people illness. And they knew that their residents, they had just had, testing and knew they were clean. And so literally we're donating blood to give to patients. So it really changed just how I saw everything. And then I ended up doing another program in Costa Rica, did another program in Mexico. And through that is where I really just was like, okay, everyone has a right to quality healthcare, right?
Yes.
And so as a pediatrician, I'm still going to see, underserved communities. A lot of people are like, you need to just do direct primary care, cash pay, you don't need to take Medicaid. And I was like, I understand that, but I feel like I'd be a complete hypocrite knowing that everyone deserves a quality pediatrician. Somebody's going to fight for them and has the knowledge base. And so that's part of Peace of Mind Pediatrics. We see, any background. We take every insurance. I mean, we really don't discriminate in any way, shape, or form. And then we opened up the free clinic. It wasn't necessarily my idea. The free clinic wasn't, I can't take, say that was mine. So it was other people who wanted it there and approached me, and they approached me years ago. And I was like, I don't have time to do it. And they approached me again. And I said, I still don't have time to do it. But then another person stepped in and said, well, I'll help you. And so they've helped me do a lot of the things. And, but then I kind of got pushed back out there. So, I mean, there's, other people are still helping, but not to the extent that I thought people would be helping. So I have had to, step up and really try to take charge of things for the clinic. And so our goal, we really just opened in the pandemic. We had hoped to have had this huge, grand opening in April, and we were shut down and we can't see COVID patients.
Yeah.
Facility, but we're able to provide care for people who are not actively like very sick. We make sure they don't have that, but just checkups. Like I was able to see a patient who has cystic fibrosis and hadn't been to the doctor, didn't have any of her medications or anything. So was able to coordinate that, and we pay for their medications if they're low cost, and then we sign them up with the companies for those that are more expensive and things like that. And then we pay for their labs and things like that too. So we've even partnered with the organization here that will help get x-rays and MRIs and CTs, and even some surgeons donate their time to do the surgeries and things like that. So that's kind of a long story of how I kind of transformed from wanting to work with the athletes that got all the money.
I think that's a powerful story, and it's beautiful. I think you should tell it all the time if you don't like to have the firsthand experience in all of these communities and how it actually informs like your day-to-day work. And I think that it's beautiful, like to hear how you've had that kind of frontline experience in that regard and are taking it and helping impacting the communities here. I think I applaud you, sis. That's beautiful.
Oh, well, I'm just grateful that for people who come into your lives for a reason, and and you don't even realize it, and then you're like, wow.
Along those lines, what would you say is the haze of this work? Of course, this is the love haze, and we are, looking at, the fact that, the love of our communities can present, some challenges. And of course, we view that as the haze, all of us being parts of non-hazing organizations. But
I wore purple just for you.
So what's the haze for you? What are some of the major difficulties you face in this work that you've been purposed to do?
So, I smile, I try to smile, but it is very difficult. And I will say that the populations that I choose to work with is a very difficult population. And I have to, when you choose to service a Medicaid population, I don't have just, mine's probably like half and half. If you choose to service that population, remember that there are people who have children who never finished junior high school. We're not even talking about high school, right? We have people who, people who had IEPs and didn't understand or have learning difficulties have children. And so it often becomes very difficult getting some of those patients and families the services that they need because the parents may not completely understand. So really having to like walk parents through, but then also, I have one family where the mom doesn't understand birth control either. And I don't think that, whoever she saw last time she had a baby completely, explained it to her well to where she understood. So now she keeps having babies, but she doesn't know what to do, and she can't really handle it and needs a lot of services. And so I have to talk to the school and ask the school, how can we help her? How can you all help her? How can we do these other things? Got her a caseworker like for housing and, different things like, and so that's very difficult. And also, how do I explain it to you? Like how to use this medication when you really don't understand this and you don't have anyone helping you. So that's a big challenge. Others are just that, people like to curse you out and stuff. I got cursed out yesterday.
Oh man.
I was called an MFer. I was like, whoa. Do nothing. Like I literally did nothing. It was something got faxed to a pharmacy and it was a fax error or something. Like I was like, whoa, like I didn't even do nothing. I can't control the fax machine, like
right.
or on their end or my end, and I had to, be able to suck it up. And I was like, okay, even though the parents are crazy, the child needs a lot of help. This is actually a very complex child. And so I was like, I still have to call them and make sure they understand what's about to happen next. I may dismiss you from practice, but I need to call you. So being able to put on that other hat and smile when people are being rude and whatever, and still say, I'm here for the child, not you, crazy. And these people don't even have mental illness, so I'm not even tying that. Please don't. This is just people who are having a bad day, who haven't really been taught how to not lash out. And so because I understand a little bit more, I'm able to navigate that situation and make sure that the child gets what they need. So that's definitely a haze. And I'll say for our clinic, the biggest haze is just help. Everybody's on board, everybody's excited, everybody's proud of you, but nobody wants to work half the time. So, and that's the reality is, and I knew that going in. And so I'm like, I can only do what I can do. Yeah. Like just this morning, people were asking me to set up COVID testing. I mean, COVID vaccines. And I'm like, you know how much work that takes? Like, it's not just volunteers to sign people up. You have to have the people to administer the vaccine. And you have to make sure it flows so that people aren't getting COVID waiting for the vaccine. Like, this is not something simple. And people don't quite understand, because they're like, oh, well, you're a doctor. You have to do stuff for the community because there's so few Black physicians in this area. I mean, you guys are blessed, to have a ton where you are. But here, I mean, I met one today and I was like, oh my God.
Where'd you come from? Yeah, I can imagine that. I hear you. And back to your point about, just kind of knowing your patients don't have mental illness, but it sounds like you're absorbing like a lot. And one thing I didn't mention in your bio, but we know you're a mother of 3 and a wife, and you're doing all of this. So how do you take care of yourself when you've got to, on the board and have a free clinic, running your own practice, you got a household, you got babies of your own, you got a man, like what do you do to take care of you?
So that's been my challenge. And so I failed. I have not quite figured that aspect of my life out. And so recently what I've been trying to do is actually, my kids have swimming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I let them go to swimming. And so I work out when they go to swimming, something as simple as that. And I know other people are like, that's nothing, but that's big for me. Someone who is 2 doors down from the massage therapist and has the gift card that never got used. So that's baby steps, but we are also trying to strategize. I personally, my husband and I, because he doesn't get to do it either. His own business and doing a lot of things too. And so we both sat down and said, okay, we're going to strategize how we do some of these things. And so we're doing a better job, even in terms of, cooking and crockpot meals versus this, types of things to try to figure that out. And then, okay, how do we have breaks? How do we calm ourselves down? This, for 1 hour of the day, I'm going to not answer any calls. I'm going to ignore people. And I know that's not really doing much, but for me, that's sufficient for now.
Yeah.
And I have a vacation plan in March. Nice. And so 1 week, and I know that sounds like not that much, but I have not taken a 1 week vacation. Well, I took one, I guess, 2 years ago, but that's big for me.
Yeah, like, don't minimize that. Like that, all of those little things will add up. Like the taking the time for yourself, not entertaining anyone else's requests, the vacation, the working out, like one-offs might seem like a small thing, but when you put them all into practice, like that's huge. I'm happy that you're doing that for yourself. So you don't, you're not going to be any good for the communities that you serve if you're not, taking care of yourself first. So I think that's good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Baby steps.
Yeah, I think that, we are passionate about the work that we do. And it sounds like you are, just like most of us, when we get into what our purpose work is, we have to remember and get back in touch with those things that are rooted in self-care as well. So that, we're equipped to do this every day, because if burnout is real too. So, we have to be able to, figure out how we take best care of ourselves and do the work that we're supposed to be doing as well. And so you got your own practice, and then you got the work that you feel purpose to do. So when you're off, you're still on Facebook, educating communities, all that kind of stuff. So you really got to be able to do all of it and figure out how to take care of yourself.
Right.
And I think, definitely. I know more recently, a few of us who do similar things, and I have another friend, she leads a nonprofit as well. We were like, we do a lot of community work. They need to start paying us for it, because I'm working harder here to make up for that. So February, I'm like, what's the honorarium?
Yeah.
This? And people are like, oh, we can do that. I'm like, you can. So that I'm not, doing extra to make up for this deficit.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to have a team. I'm sure you have it, for example, with, some of the nonprofit stuff you do, and I'm sure you have it for your practice, but even in your home life, I am always telling him, like, if we can afford it, whenever we have kids, like, I need a team to help me, like somebody to help with the cleaning and not every day, not celebrity life, but like, can somebody do the cleaning? Can somebody do some meal prep for us? Is there something that somebody could take off of our plate so that we still have time for ourselves? We still have time for our relationship. If we have a family, we have time for that. So if you can outsource anything, honey.
I used to actually outsource my meals and all that. And then people, couldn't do it anymore, things like that. I'm fortunate. Part of the reason we moved back here to Oklahoma from Atlanta was because my mom and my sisters are here. So they are helpful, but the problem has been COVID. And so I have 3 germy kids. Some people, they recently, though, they did come and they cleaned up the house while I wasn't here, like that. So they will definitely, my family is definitely very helpful, but they're also very busy too. They're very busy as well.
I understand. Okay, so then how has this work impacted you? I imagine you having a huge impact, I'm sure you are, on the communities that you're serving and those families, but how has the work that you do impacted your own personal life, you as a woman, as a human?
Well, every time I make a breakthrough, it's so rewarding, even when a parent finally gets it. I give an example, just a little while ago, I was at the hospital seeing a patient of mine who I admitted to the hospital 10 days ago. And being able to catch what was wrong with him when someone else failed to, and possibly literally saving his life. And he's only 5, and that right there is so rewarding. And you forget about all the other stuff. Like, I forget people curse me out because I got to see a 5-year-old who's still here of, me being able to catch something very quickly. Little things like that are definitely rewarding. And I feel that every time we do something and seeing people smile and people saying, I'm going to pray for you, I'm like, yes. Thank you. And because some people are like, well, why do you keep doing this and doing this? You're giving too much of yourself and not putting enough into yourself. And I know people often say that, but some of us actually feel, better when we do give more. And I know we talk about empaths and all these other things. And so I am one of those people that I get a high off of giving bags out to the homeless. And then when they see what's in the bag, I'm like, yeah. And people are like, you're weird. But something that I get excited about, because when I was in Atlanta, I used to serve under the bridge in Auburn, the Auburn Bridge. We used to serve homeless every Sunday. And when they would open their box and see, because we would cook the food, and they would see what it was and see the excitement, we were like, yes, and that just made you realize that you brought a smile to someone's face in a dark situation. And people, of course, look at those populations and they're like, well, that'll never be me. No, that could be you tomorrow. Reality of, especially these times now, people are realizing, oh, that could be me tomorrow. But to see how you make that impact. And my parents, sometimes I fought my parents, right? My parents, my first name, Nur Jihan. I know I go by Jihan, but Nur Jihan means light of the world. When I was little, my dad, I was acting up or something. He was like, are you spreading light or darkness?
Oh.
I'm like, what you mean? He's like, are you bringing light? Are you bringing dark? And then I have to go, you know what? Let me get my act together because I'm not shining light. And so that needs to be, he's like, I named you this for a reason. And so each one of us has a name for our meaning behind our name. And our parents used to always remind us of why they made us that. And so it's something that I think that it is indebted to me. My mother's a high school counselor and she's 70 and still works.
Wow.
It helps. In fact, ask Drew one day.
No, I will, right?
Yes. So she's the one who really pushed him to go to Tuskegee and made sure that they had money to go to those institutions. And she still does that. I mean, she's done it for, countless numbers of students. And so when I see that, people, I'm like, what else you want me to do? Like my mama doing this, I got to do something, right? My dad, he has a lot of houses and he often lets people stay in them who are not paying rent. Things like that, but it gives a lot to the community. My parents used to, pay for teacher salaries at a small school, different things. So like I literally was born into a family that was always giving and doing things. And so it's kind of like how we get joy sometimes. My mom's name is Joy too. So how we get that though in our lives.
Yeah, that's dope. We all have our own path to plot towards our purpose work, and it definitely sounds like your purpose for the work that you do.
Yeah.
And hearing about your mom and your dad both, it sounds like that those things that they have been doing, it's purposed work, right? And so we know that we all have purpose, but how would you say that we would be able to recognize what our purpose is? How do we get to it?
I think that one of the ways that people get to that purpose is when you do something and you feel a sense of satisfaction. A lot of time, like for instance, I do some other things that I do not get satisfaction from. And I know that's not my purpose. It's something temporary that I must do. And once I finish it, that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so when other things, I'm like, wow, I feel full. I feel like my cup is full. This gratitude, this sense of calm, even amidst chaos is very interesting. And I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I think that that's kind of, especially with my work, because I also used to do ER work, urgent care work. And I, was like, well, I thought I wanted to be an ER doc for a little while too. And then I realized, no, sitting with a mom who's crying because she has postpartum depression and the baby won't latch and breastfeed, and I can help her. Whoa, like that's here, that sense, and you're like, this was stressful, but came out feeling so good. And I think that if everyone kind of takes a moment to reevaluate situations after they've occurred to see how they actually felt instead of continuing to do it.
Yeah.
It may not be your purpose, and it may be something you need to say. I have a good friend who is an engineer, and recently she said, I'm not supposed to be an engineer. And I said, okay. And she says, I think I just needed to be a person who knows how to figure out problems and help solve them. Degree was for that. And so now gradually she's falling into her purpose. And it's wonderful because she even helps me figure out my problem, like and strategize and different things, especially with my business. Like that actually is more her purpose. And she never realized it because she was the person building robots and, doing well in chemistry and math. And so everyone pushed her into engineering.
Yeah.
And the reality is she just needed the analytical part, probably.
Yeah. I really like the thoughts that you said about there even being like a little peace in the chaos, or Like just the idea of like, you just know when you know. People say that about relationships and life partners, but I think that it's something to be said about like the work that you're doing. Like you just kind of know, like when you're in it, sometimes you can't explain it. I would absolutely agree with the whole just kind of like peace, or like parts of your work that will be energizing when they are draining to most other people.
Like your work.
Yeah. You know,
like you just choreographed this whole, oh no.
So yeah, I love that idea that, you know, there is a peace, there is just a knowing, you just know. And I think I agree with your friend that even if you get taken or rerouted different ways, like everything that we experience can be used for the next thing. But I'm happy to hear that she's kind of moving in a direction that's something that's more fulfilling for her, you know?
We have to be willing to switch course. Yeah. And obviously I know that I'm a very linear person and I understand that. But for me, switching course was opening my own practice, right? Going off on a limb. And I'm actually about to open my second practice. That might be a little crazy, but you know, or opening a free clinic, you know, things like that, kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone where I'm more conservative in terms of, you know, making sure things are like this, but then realizing, okay, I'm going to step out on what I think my purpose is. And like, even for my second practice, people are like, why would you do that? And I'm like, my second practice is an area where lots of people are moving and there aren't really doctors at that area. So that's part of the purpose, is to provide additional access to care. And so I'm like, if the people, they've said that they're there and they don't have anybody, so we'll see, you know, if they come.
Yeah.
What we're also finding interesting about so many of these conversations is that people are really exposing that we really have to become masters of being able to pivot.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much of what we learn and what we encounter and what we go through that really is setting us up for our purpose work, or is setting forth like the framework for us to be able to build the skills that we'll need. And even with COVID, you know, everybody's having to do some form of pivoting to be able to still, you know, stay, you know, on level ground, and to be able to do the things that, you know, we're purposed to do, to be able to really explore other areas of our interest, whether you're forced into doing it, whether you just have the time to do it, or whether you just are led to do that, and being able to use the skills that you've developed over the years, or things that you've been exposed to, or situations that you've been in, just to be able to pivot. And a lot of times the universe is conspiring to really pivot us towards our purpose.
Always.
Yeah.
Right. If we listen.
Right. If we listen.
If we listen. Yeah. And I've seen so much of that during these times. And I've seen two extremes. I've seen people who, and of course you see this, Scott. So people who just can't do it. And so then they go into that darker place, right? And because they just never learned the skill of how to do it. And then I'm seeing people just flourish who were able to. And it also sometimes makes me wonder, is how do we train a child or a teen to learn how to do that? So I have different sets of teens in my practice. I have the ones who they just won't seem to pivot. We're working on some pivoting, but they are struggling so hard because they just want what once was. And they can't see that your future may look different than previously we had. And then I see others who were like, I'm about to do this. Like, I don't know if you saw, Shatay, that our line sister Jessica's son just bought a vending machine.
No, I hadn't seen that yet.
I saw it.
Yeah. He's like, that's what I'm about to do. Like, that is amazing. And, you know, my children, I'll be honest with you, they asked me to start a business too during COVID. And I just like, I can't do that. I got time. But at some point, you know, maybe this summer I'll let them explore their entrepreneurial spirit. But, you know, it's interesting to see, you know, how some people are able to do it, some aren't. But it's like, how do you even teach people how to learn how to pivot and I think a lot of it does rely on faith, and it doesn't necessarily have to, some people don't believe in God or whatever might be the case, but having faith that there's a better opportunity, even if you fail, that there's still some good that will come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand you shouldn't just continuously seek out endeavors that are going to fail. So you have to be smart and wise as you make those decisions to make sure that your family or just yourself are okay when you make those changes.
Absolutely. It's about being adaptable. It's about, I think to your point, taking the fear out of failure, which it's interesting this is coming up. I was literally just yesterday talking about, when I was full-time in my dance career as an educator, and like my teaching philosophy being part of it was about basically taking the fear out of failure by teaching people how to like overcome their mistakes, and like that there is life outside after that mistake. And it involved a lot of like turning the lights off so that people can dance in the dark, or like gamifying movement, or like, recovering. So like really reinforcing the progress over the perfection, and just applauding that. Like, I noticed you just messed up, but the way you recovered was just beautiful. And there's something really beautiful, honestly, about seeing people who once like they wouldn't even try it because they were afraid they were going to mess up, or when they did mess up, they would just quit altogether. So then at the end of a semester, seeing someone just like power through that thing, even if every single step was wrong, they just didn't quit, is probably one of the most beautiful things I think I have witnessed like in my time in that type of career. So I agree, like I think it takes some time to teach people to learn how to adapt and how to trust themselves enough and trust the process enough. But definitely a skill that is needed to make it, especially these days, for sure.
But even your class, like that should be a class that everybody takes. I mean, not so just about dance, but just that whole concept, because in medicine, they don't do that. And I'll be honest with you, some of the highest suicide rates are in physicians because they don't teach you how to accept failure. I mean, especially if someone dies, like, how do you process that, And there isn't a lot of that taught. And so when people make mistakes, or even there have been, students and things like that who maybe failed an exam, or, people, their whole life is over now and not even realizing. That would be a great class. That should be a mandatory class versus the English, because I don't remember any of the parts of speech that they taught me. My kids are like the past participle. I'm like, I don't remember what that is.
Never once have I used it in my adult life, right?
Just teach me how to speak. Exactly. I'll speak of the King's English, right?
Exactly.
Seriously, like a class that's going to teach you how to navigate the failures of life, like that's powerful.
So then what would be your biggest advice? Could be for your kids, it could be for your younger self, someone who is, venturing to figure out what's theirs to do. What would you tell them?
So definitely for like my younger self, one of the biggest regrets that I had, well, I won't say regrets, but the biggest things that I wish I had done while I was in college was study abroad. So, and actually learn a foreign language. So I didn't do this because I was doing research, and I couldn't do research in another country if I wanted to graduate with honors. Guess who never even finished their honors project? Me. Wow. Because I got burnt out. I did research from sophomore year through.
Wow.
And so when I look back, I was like, who cared if I graduated? And granted, I ended up, I think my GPA was more important than the significance of honors program. I was in the honors program, but you have to do the project to get that designation. And so I really, all my friends who did it, I was like, man, I wish I had done that, And so that's why you saw me doing all those other things, but I had to pay for all of those. Most of them I ended up paying. I think 2 I was paid, but the rest of them I paid for.
Yeah.
So I wish that I would have done that, but also just being able to, I'm more of a, not as a like laid back person, like this has to be done and then the whole world falls apart. That was me. And until I met my husband, And we've been married now 11 years, but he was the person who kind of was like, so, and I'm like, but this, and this. And he's like, okay, to help me just kind of change my, it's not that serious. This didn't happen or that didn't happen, because I would just get so, discombobulated and all these other things. And he's like, you can't control that. So why are you upset about it? It's like, you have to, for me, it's like, if you believe in God, then you need to believe in God.
Oh, come on. Just gave a word.
I know, right? I was like, oh, yeah. And so it really has helped me, because when certain things happen, I'm like, that's the will of God, and I can't change that. And there's no point in me dwelling on this or getting really upset. And it's even helped me now with my staff. They might, somebody gave the wrong injection to a parent or something. And I used to get so upset. And even more recently, I'm like, listen, you can't do that. You got to pay more attention. But it's like my whole approach is different in terms of, this happened once, it cannot happen again.
Right.
Yeah.
I need you to do this, this, and this, versus you're fired. I mean, I don't think I never fired somebody, but just that's what I would be thinking. Like, I need to just get rid of them because they made one little mistake. But the reality is we all make mistakes. And when we do that, then it helps us to learn from those and therefore grow and develop. But if you never grow, of course you got to go. But kind of the thing. So I think those were probably the two things, is to not get so fixated on this linear concept that I had, and be able to fudge a little bit more. But younger me obviously didn't realize I could do that. And so I didn't, but I was able to make up for it and have a lot of those experiences that I wanted. I'm still not fluent in Spanish though, which
you can get there. There are apps for that. Duolingo and all kinds of things.
I've tried to, I needed to be submerged when I was 19 or 20. Emerged, I should say, sorry. But I mean, I'm fine. But you just like, man, because other people I saw do it and I'm like, oh man, I should have done it.
So tell us, with everything that you have going on with the Community Healthcare Center, with the main work that you're doing, we're trying to open a second practice, so much going on. How can we help you? What is there anything that our audience can do, that we can do as the Hazes? Yeah. Anything? How can we help?
Personally, for me, I think the biggest ways that people can help, because obviously you're not necessarily in my city, mm-hmm. but looking at your city to see, are there free clinics? Do people know about free clinics? And then are we making sure we're supporting them, mm-hmm. and encouraging other, counselors and things like that? Like, are we volunteering our services in those? Of course, you have your job, and make sure you don't do free work there, because you got to get paid. But then do we have, those types of things to help? Anytime people support Dr. Jihan, I appreciate it. And it's just that's my fun way of kind of what, you guys get it. You get to interview different people, talk about different topics, but really educating the community and making people, we always get fixated on celebrities.
Yeah.
And how amazing they are and all this other stuff. And people are really into their lives, but that's not our reality. So I love my show or my, Facebook Live, because it's showing you real life people that you could become. Like, you could take on this career, you could pivot and do this, or you can see how you can multitask or invent new things. And so this month, for February, I will be interviewing writers, Black male writers.
Nice.
Because as you know, Black men are not writing. People aren't writing, period. The love of the ink is not something that we continue on. So definitely, supporting, sharing that. But for me, it's the health aspect is just really, so many people have insurance and they never think about the people who don't.
Yeah.
And I think I personally saw that firsthand because I'm self-employed. And so I had to then apply through the marketplace, Obamacare, as they want to say. And then I found nobody wanted to take my insurance. So I was like, what? I pay $1,500 a month for my family. Why can't we find, people who want to take this insurance? And just the struggles and the things. And so people are like, oh, you have it easy. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Insurance doesn't pay for any of my medications. No, I pay for everything. So it's like, once I kind of saw that, then I understand a little bit more people's plots and people not being able to pay, co-pays and things like that. But just being individuals who make sure that people understand that the right to healthcare, and those who can't pay a copay still need a right to healthcare. So the question is, what are we doing as a society to make sure that people have access to quality healthcare? And even if they have insurance, that doesn't mean they can actually pay for their.
That's insightful. I had not thought to look up free clinics and support their efforts. So thank you for that tip. And if there's ever, I definitely want to share out your Dr. Jihan Facebook page, but if there's ever, I don't know if there's donation links you want to share with us that we can share out as well.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Clara Community Health Center. So it's clarahealthcenter.org.
Okay.
It's our website for our clinic. And then we have a donation there, but also Clara Community Health Center on Facebook. And we have that information there if people want to donate. Like I said, all of our, and I don't know if I didn't actually mention it, but everyone's a volunteer in our clinic. We don't pay any staff.
Wow.
All the money just goes towards and then the meds and services for patients.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
Will be donating ourselves, and then we'll also make sure that we share that out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I keep forgetting to raise money. I'm not, that's not my, my perfection. Raising money is not, I've actually done really well with this clinic because other people, they're like, you need to raise money for your clinic. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I'm going to just help you.
Right. That part.
Glad you got the help you need. All right. Music.
Yeah. So Shatay and I are music fanatics, music heads. We believe that music is healing. It provides the soundtrack for most of our life. Shatay gets on me because music is always playing in this house. It's very loud.
I just figured she'd dance to it, right?
Right.
Sometimes I do.
Me too.
Sometimes I do.
So anyway, we want to ask you, what is your music for this moment? What is the song for you that inspires your work or gives you strength to keep going? What does this feel like for you?
What music? It's interesting because I can't ever think of the song right now. It's a song I keep hearing, but it was one that really hit me. I have to think of it in a second. But the other night, my husband just put on Coltrane. And I found myself dancing through the house. I do that too, by the way. And I was doing all these modern dance pieces. I was probably choreographing this away. You listen to Coltrane, it's more of a modern dance feel, but I feel like that actually spoke to me. I listened to the radio, I listened to music, but that spoke to me more. And I hadn't really listened to it in a long time. And it was that smooth, calm intricacies, but still then you waver to the calm. And I feel like I might be a little Coltrane, Miles Davis. That might be kind of where I am right now.
I'm here for it. We're gonna put some of that on the playlist.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it was so random. Like he was reading an article or something, and then he just started playing it, and I was like, "Wow, this." My mom plays it, growing up, and my aunt and uncle, everybody, they're really big into jazz. I had kind of forgotten about it. So
nice. The whole vibe, right? Whole mood.
It was a whole mood, and they were like, "What are you doing?" Like, we're trying to teach you how to do some modern dance. Come here.
School them, huh? School them. Well, thank you so much, sis, for being on. Like your story, I feel like I've even learned more about you through this conversation. I think what you're doing, I've said it before already, but it's really powerful. I think it's beautiful. And I really like how it's kind of weaved, like how your mind was opened and exposed to these communities in college and how it's directly like impacting the communities around you. I think it's just some good stuff going on over there. That's dope. Really dope.
Oh, thank you. I definitely appreciate being able to share those things. I think it, like I said before, is sometimes we don't think it could be us,
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah, and it just give us a lot to think about, and I think we appreciate having so many friends and family members and folks that we know, and being able to normalize like all of these different parts of the work that we all have to do to contribute to our communities being better and healthier and being the best that we really can be. And we actually know people who are doing this work and normalizing it to the point to where we are then teaching our children that they have their part of the work that they will also be responsible for. So I really appreciate you coming and joining us and just being a part of the Love Haze podcast for today.
Definitely a pleasure, and it's always a privilege to see, Black couples in love who can work together and create. So it's beautiful.
Want to sign us off?
Yeah. So that's it for this episode of the Love Haze podcast. Until next time, y'all, we encourage you to pull up to your purpose.
Hold up.
Why did it take so long to come through? Oh, baby. And love, your love. Tell me, were you hiding from me all the time? Each time.